How's everybody? Don't all say hello.
Hello. Feel free to ask any questions. Let me just introduce you to the band: Paul Stanley, Eric Carr, Gene Simmons, and Ace Frehley.
Hi, Gene.
They're all yours.
Okay.
We're going to make a presentation first.
I can't see anything. It's just what I want.
We stand up? Yes.
So I stand too.
For your first visit to present you with our silver disc, which shows the sale of 25,000 albums or cassettes. Soon after you're gone, we will send after you the golden record for 50,000 because we already has passed 40,000.
And we've ordered 10,000.
So we present you with great pleasure the Norwegian Phonogram Award for 25,000.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So if you were allowed to take pictures, so you could have it, but I think you will do that.
We'll do that tonight.
That's great.
And I hope that you will enjoy the stay here in Oslo.
Thank you.
I hope that you will get back. I'm sure we will have a hell of a concert tonight. And I wish you all good luck and welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Why do you think it's so important that we can't take your pictures?
Why is it so important? Why is it so important that you do?
Is that the answer?
It's as good an answer as the question.
You know the answer to that. The reason you asked is you wanted something really fancy to print. The reason is because we believe in what we're doing and we'd rather concentrate on our stage appearance. We wanted to meet you face to face, but we'd rather not have everybody know what we look like. We also want a private life.
More than that, look, the fans enjoy the mystery and the mystique. So why kill it for them? They seem to enjoy it. I don't see why it's so important that such a big deal should be made of it. You know, it should be accepted by now. It's been a long time.
Did you plan it like that?
Did we plan it?
Yeah.
From the beginning, yeah. I mean, by the time we were wearing the makeup, we had decided that we wanted to put out a strong image and stick with it. We didn't want, I mean, any star, any actor, any model, any personality likes to be seen at their best. It helps project a strong image. That's what your audience usually wants. That's what your fans want.
Partly, I would say that any rock and roll band that went before us had an effect. You can't do what you do and not be affected by the groups that you listen to when you're growing up. Alice Cooper, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, all the rest of the bands, sure.
We were affected by them, but we're still affected by what's going on today.
Music is always changing, so hopefully you're always listening, so whatever goes on, you're influenced by. I don't think influences stop at the beginning of a band, they continue.
Excuse me?
Only.
Quite a lot, yeah. All kinds. What specifically are you asking? Which groups?
Which bands do you like?
I like the Pretenders. I like, I like AC/DC and Van Halen, but they're not English. One is American, the other one is Australian.
Rolling Stones and
Most of, I think a lot of the bands we listen to are the earlier English bands. You know, what's going on now in music is real interesting, and it's nice. I don't know how long it's going to last. It'll have an influence, but I'm not crazy about a lot of the music that's, that may be happening. I still listen to Zeppelin, and, your heavy metal bands. Heavy metal never really died. It seems to plow through.
Anybody know any jokes? Anything funny?
There's a controversy about the two S's at the end of the name, which reminds European of the Nazi S's. Do you expect any reactions, for example, in Europe?
We've had it already.
Yeah.
we were already through Europe, and especially in Germany, we tried to explain for the past 5 years at least that with two Jews in a band, it would be very hard to be Nazis. And we really have no political leanings anyway. We're totally apolitical. And in Germany, they seem to have a sore spot about it, an especially sore spot. So for them, we changed the S's. But for everybody else, we'll just go on record as saying we're not Nazis. We have no affiliation to any party similar to the Nazis. We're rock and roll. We're a rock and roll party. I'm sorry?
No.
No.
No, we'd say it's 50-50.
When you're playing live,
And when you print a newspaper, are the pictures more important than the words? I think one goes hand in hand with the other.
when you buy a record, you buy music. When you go to a show, that's the word. The word is show. So you go there to hear the music, but you're also going to see something. Most of your best bands and the bands that have lasted the longest are the bands that had more to offer than just music. We'll change that soon.
Next album is going to be a hard rock album, all the way.
Yeah. What we did, we found that when we were being produced, the music tended to get a little too diluted and some people would like to see us more a mainstream pop band, a little more acceptable. I think there was an effort to clean us up, and we'd rather stay filthy. So we're going to do it ourselves. The new album we're working on, we're producing ourselves. And it's back to heavy metal, back to what we always have been.
On the Destroy album, you used voice. What made you do that?
The producer used the voice.
Bob Esmond's idea. And couldn't we what? Yes. Well, at the time, why not?
At the time, it seemed like a good idea.
At the time, it seemed like a good idea. I don't regret using a voice choir. I don't think anybody ever does. I think
Not at all.
I think we really, Destroyers are really, I like that album. I think we're all real fond of that album.
We're not ashamed of anything we've ever done on the record. Everything, you can't do the same thing. Record after record after record after record. You have to experiment, you have to change, because then you get stale.
Part of the idea of working with a producer is sometimes maybe not agreeing with what they want to do, but having faith in what they're doing. And I guess we're at a point now where we would rather have total faith in what we do than any faith in anybody else.
Which other persons or who else is influencing you apart from producers?
Music, the radio. The radio is the biggest influence.
Yeah, I mean, does press coverage or publicity have anything to do
Nothing.
We don't
No.
care.
We don't. We do this as a courtesy. We only do. No. We do this as a courtesy to the press. We're not here to convince the press to like us or dislike us. We do this to answer some questions. If people don't like us, we don't care. We're only here for the people that like us. We don't go on concert tours to play for people that don't like us. The only people we're concerned with are the people that like us. And as far as record company, they put out records. That's their job. They don't tell us how to record music, and we don't tell them how to put out records.
Just for the record, how long time do you use every night?
1 hour.
Takes me a little longer because I've just been doing it, for a short time. But I'm getting faster. He said something.
The KISS concept was conceived by the 4 original members of the group prior to meeting Bill O'Coin and Neil Bogart. And it was conceived in a loft on 23rd Street in 1973.
73, yeah.
We had the makeup and the costume ideas.
And the controversial logo is.
I designed the logo myself because I was an art student at the time. And the concept of KISS came from and each member designed his own makeup and developed his own character.
People don't realize that before, people sometimes, especially the press, tends to make us into this big corporate kind of structure. They want to make us into some kind of factory or company. We're a rock and roll band. Before we had any backing from either management or a record company, we looked exactly the way we look now on stage. As Ace said, we were doing all the songs from the first 2 albums. We had the logo with the S's that have caused so much controversy. So we're pretty much, we've always tried to be self-contained. The idea that some people would like to have you believe that there's 50 people sitting around in a room with ties saying what KISS should do next. This is what decides what KISS will do next.
Have you any influence on the KISS Army things and all that stuff too?
Well, it's a fan club. Fan clubs go back, 100 years. Whatever you want to call a fan club, it's still a fan club. It's a way for the fans to unify and to have a common cause.
A lot of the majority of them developed on their own without our help.
The original one did too, in America.
It wasn't our concept to start the KISS Army. It was fans.
They even came up with the name.
Yeah, it was fans of ours that got together and decided to call themselves the KISS Army, because a lot of stations didn't want to play our music in the beginning. And it's happened all over the world.
Yeah. We never really came up with the idea of a fan club. We've always tried to give the audience and give the fans what they want, but usually we let them tell us what they want, and we just respond to it.
You should interview those two. They're the presidents of the Swedish fan club or the Dutch fan club?
Swedish.
Scandinavian. They started their own fan club. I never really saw the newsletter until we came over for the first time.
That's the kind of support and devotion that's made KISS such a huge band. It's people getting behind it because they want to, not because they're told to or because it's in or because it's hip. The greatest thing about KISS fans is that they don't care what's hip. Too many people are concerned with what's in this year and what's out and what's cool and what's good and bad. A KISS fan doesn't care. He may be the one kid out of 5, who's totally independent thinking, and that's what we want.
How much control do you have over the byproducts like films and comics and things like that?
We're trying to, at this point, to cut back on a lot of that stuff because it was turning into too much of a commercial venture that we were suffering by because other people were furthering themselves maybe by detracting from what we were trying to do as a musical band by putting out a lot of products that ultimately just became a hodgepodge. So at this point we're trying to cut back, if anything. We certainly don't, we're more concerned with having guitars around our necks and guitars in tune and drums than what color t-shirt's going to come out.
The only purpose initially in starting a merchandise company at all was to try to control the quality. So let's say if you're a KISS fan and you buy a KISS t-shirt, you want to make sure it's a good t-shirt because if it's produced by somebody outside other than us, then you can't take it back and say, look, this is no good, I want my money back. So we started the company initially out of trying to control the quality of what came out because it comes out anyway.
It's going to come out anyway.
I think people just tended to put too much emphasis on that, and it seemed interviews especially were more concerned with that kind of stuff than what was at the nucleus, what started it all, and that's a band. So we're here as a band, not as a merchandise company.
There was some talk about a movie you made.
I think,
I think it was very helpful for the group because prior to the solo albums we had done five or six albums together. Was it six?
More than that.
we've done about 10.
Okay, we did 10 albums. We had been on the road for 5 years, probably 9 months out of the year of each year. And it was time to get away from each other, you know, experiment on their own.
We spent so much
It was
time.
very healthy.
Yeah, we spent so much time creating together that I think it was important for each one to go off and see musically where his head was at. Most bands don't get an opportunity to do that because most bands aren't strong enough as individuals to put out albums. In most bands, that signals the end of a band. In this case, I think it almost signaled a new beginning.
What does it feel like to be the new member of Kiss? Carl?
How was your solo
Yeah,
album?
I'm working on my solo album. It'll be out in the spring.
Was that one of the results?
They believe it.
From
I'm
the
sorry.
solo- Was that one of
Headlines
the
tomorrow.
results from the solo projects with Big Chris playing?
I'm sure it played a part in it because once Peter had a chance to do a solo album, I'm sure he had a better idea of what he wanted to do musically. And probably once we started playing again as a band, he probably saw that his direction was different than ours. I think we all wanted to get heavier and heavier, and I think listening to Peter's album, you'd see that his direction was something else. And rather than have people have a lot of tension and people not like each other, we thought it would just be best for him to pursue the direction he wanted to and us to pursue ours.
He also got remarried, and that takes a lot of time.
And he also knew he was tired of touring. He wanted to spend time with his new wife. He bought a home in Connecticut.
We saw Peter the day before we left. I had a birthday party. Everybody was there. Eric and Peter and the rest of the band played at the same time on stage. Everybody got along great. Peter's very happy.
There's no hard feeling.
And he's still a member of the partnership. He will be forever.
I think partnership's a bad word. I think family's a much better word. Partnership puts a...
Makes a sense of business.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
he'll be a
mean,
member of the family partnership.
Did you feel success becoming as a slow process or as a sudden in record sales?
in Europe, it's taking much longer, but that's to be expected because we built our following in the States by touring constantly. We haven't been in Europe in 5 years. So what we're planning to do now is to complete this tour tonight. Hopefully we'll complete the tour and go home, do the next album, and go to Australia and then come back to Europe. So we intend to spend quite a bit more time in Europe. I think once every 5 years is a little long for our fans, so they tell us.
Are you bringing with you all the equipment to Europe the same as you used in the States?
It's scaled down, but in terms of the show, it's, for all purposes, it's the same show. It's the size of the other one wouldn't fit in the hall here, so we had it scaled down, but I'm sure it's the biggest thing anybody's seen.
Do you feel you have to top it each time you go on tour?
I'm sorry?
Do you feel you have to top it?
Well, I think up until this tour, we always felt the need to kind of do ourselves one better. But I think after this tour, we may rethink that. In terms of, I don't think necessarily doing it bigger is necessarily doing it better. I mean, you can reach a point where it's big enough, and you take it in other directions. I think live we can go in other directions other than having more bombs, let's say.
The way it is up on stage, does it symbolize anything or is it just some wild ideas?
It's just a wild idea.
Four guys, something to do.
Just 4 guys having a good time.
Hey, let's talk on.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
I'll taste it as well. Hey,
Sorry?
why not? Have some of this water. Or what?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll drink some.
It's, you get up on stage and you want to be bigger than life and you try to be flamboyant, and that's all. It's more for the show. We're trying to give the people more than other bands do, that's all. That's the only reason we do all the effects and try to make things bigger.
A lot of people say, Kiss is in for the money. Kiss is, one of the richest bands in the world. We're losing probably $750,000 on this tour. We're not making money. We're not here because we're making money. We're here because we want to be here for our fans and promote our albums. The amount of people that we have to take around with us, to put up that show and take it down every night. And the amount of trucks and equipment, it's just, the cost is insurmountable. We're doing it because we want to put on the biggest and the best rock and roll show that anyone has ever seen. And I think tonight you'll understand.
If you don't, you'll be back here tomorrow and we'll answer more questions.
Why did you call the last album Unmasked when you actually didn't unmask at all?
Because unmasked, because your conception of unmasked means physical. And I think unmasking has a lot more to do with other aspects. You can unmask in terms of part of your personality. You can unmask in terms of letting out a different aspect of your musical taste. You can unmask in confiding in somebody. Unmasking doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what you do physically.
The cover art, in a way.
I'm sorry?
The cover was really implying the physical, didn't it?
Yeah, no, what it was saying was that there was a reporter supposedly after us who kept wanting us to take off the makeup and unmask. And essentially what we were saying at the end is, there is no makeup. There's nothing to take off. We are what we are. Makeup and costumes don't make you what you are. What you are comes from inside you. Because you're wearing a pink scarf doesn't make you a puff, I don't know.
You read the fantasy world or the flamboyancy that you project, help the kids to
Can we turn off that phone, please?
to unlock themselves?
I think so. I think if that's for me, I'll have a ham sandwich. No, I think what we're doing is giving everybody a certain amount of freedom to get a little crazy, to get a little loose, and lose some inhibitions. I think what's great about our fans and about a certain segment of the population is that you're not concerned with what you look like. You believe in yourself and you do what you feel. All we're saying to people is be yourself. Don't worry about what your friend says. Don't worry that it's not cool to stand up at a concert, or it's not cool to wear high heels, or you shouldn't let your hair grow. Whatever you want to do is fine.
So there's nothing really with any kind of escapism.
Sure it does.
Yeah, entertainment.
There's a lot of boring things in the world that are worth escaping from. And that's healthy. And that's what keeps everybody together. That's what keeps you together. In your life, is escaping once in a while from the stuff that goes on around.
Excuse me, Paul. A lot of people, a lot of kids have to take drugs sometimes to entertain themselves. A kid can come to a Kiss concert straight and really get into it because it's such an elaborate show. You can get into the characters and the superhero images that we project. He doesn't need drugs. He can have a good time.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you know that, obviously.
Well, come to the show and then you tell us.
I've spoken to my fans and they've told me that.
What we try to bring across is that you may not be able to look like us, but there's nothing that prevents you from feeling like us. Because again, it's back to the clothing. Clothing has nothing to do with it. You may not be able to look like us, but that's just a physical manifestation of what we feel. And we all can feel like that. We're just lucky enough to be able to dress like that.
Yeah, but clothing and that kind of mask is something to do with covering up.
No.
Well, women
It's
know
not-
more about
wait,
that than
it's
we
not,
do.
It's not
For
covering.
centuries.
It's not covering up. It's actually bringing out a part of your personality even more. We're not hiding behind a mask. I'm dressed in a way that says, this is me. This is how I feel. I'm not dressed like Eric. I wouldn't be comfortable in what he wears. Plus, he wears smaller clothes. You know, I didn't think he was going to say that. Yeah, but we're just saying, in other words, you wear, that may be your favorite shirt. That makes you feel real good. That shirt to you says, this is me. This shirt is me. This is comfortable. That's what we're saying to our audience. Be yourself. Wear what makes you comfortable. Think the way it makes you comfortable.
But don't you think that some of your audience just try to be Paul Stanley?
That's okay, because maybe when I was younger, I tried to be somebody else. But before you can find yourself, maybe you have to try to be somebody else.
Every child and everybody when they're growing up has an idol. You know, when I was young, I loved Superman, and Batman.
But I think the older fans are into us for, let's say, the music or for the show. The younger fans may see us as heroes, but it takes a certain amount of time. You have to identify with somebody before you can start to figure out who you are. You have to know what you like before you know who you are.
It seems to me there are a lot of grown-ups here that are different looks and different. I'm not putting this very well, but if you were to look at any kind of stereotype, you know, there's a kind of a stereotype in wearing suits and ties. There's a certain image you're patterning yourself after. It's okay. I mean, you figure out for yourself who it is that you are. And your point about hiding behind makeup is strange coming from a woman, you know? I mean, women have been wearing makeup forever. I don't think it's hiding. You're bringing out something. If you want to accentuate your mouth, you put on lipstick and eyes, of course.
That's why we never think of it as masks. I mean, it's nothing to hide behind. That's probably the reason why we're the only band that's successful doing what we're doing. Because we're not hiding behind masks. We're Kiss. We're those four guys. And that's why when other bands may come out and try to copy what we're doing, it doesn't work. Because it goes back to the same thing. Be yourself. Nobody can be better at being you than you. We're just setting examples, that's all. And at the same time, we're a rock and roll band.
There has been some reaction from parents in America. How do you react?
Parents sometimes forget that they were once young. That's sad. I hope I never forget when I'm 90 years old that I was young, because you should always be young. That's the spark that keeps, that little glow.
That was very good.
For some people, maybe they react on the blood out of the mouth and
You got to see a hormone.
Then they're foolish.
When Elvis first came out, the parents didn't like him moving his hips. When the Beatles came out, they didn't like the hair. There's always something.
And it doesn't really matter.
I think the more the parents dislike us, probably the more the kids will like us. Because kids always like to rebel against what their parents say. If their parents say one thing, they want to do the opposite. It's human nature.
We're only here for the people that want to listen, not the people that don't want to listen. So if some parents are concerned with the wrong things, that's too bad. We're not going after them.
But there is a certain element of violence in the show, isn't it?
I don't agree with that. I think there's much more violence in the newspaper than our show.
See, I think when you spend your life sitting in chairs like this, what we do on stage may come across as violent. What we're doing on stage is really pretty high energy, pretty explosive. Compared to this is so passive, it's almost dead. So when people live these kind of lives and sit at home and see their kids going out and having a great time, it's kind of scary. To them, it's violence. There's no violence in what we're doing. It's fun.
Nobody ever gets hurt. I think that's what violence means.
We just have a couple more questions and we'll wrap up the comments.
But are you just a fantasy? I was thinking about the Marvel comics you made.
The comic was a secondary kind of. It was like an outgrowth of us. It was based on us only in the sense that it was a physical likeness. Other than that, it has nothing to do with us, because the comic book didn't even have anything to do with the fact that we play, that we're a band. It's a comic about superheroes. We're not superheroes in that sense. We're a rock band. We're a super group. We're a group that a lot of people like, a lot of people look up to. We don't see through buildings, and we don't bend steel bars or anything. We're guys. We're people just like you.
But didn't you like it then? I
Yeah.
understand it
Yeah,
was
we
put
love
out.
Sure, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's us. You know.
Wasn't it made a film too?
Yes, there was a film of sorts.
What was that?
What was it? It was called Kiss Meets the Phantom.
Do you plan to do anything similar to
No,
that?
we plan to continue playing music at the moment. Yes.
Yes.
We want to spend more time doing what we did initially, and that's play music. There always seems to be opportunities, and there always seems to be offers from people to do things that maybe don't have that much relevance or worth, you know, so we give some of them a try. As far as the movie, we thought we were going to have a lot more control than we ultimately had, but we enjoyed it, and so far a lot of the fans seem to enjoy it, and that's really all that counts.
Some bands have burned themselves financially on putting on a great show, like the Tubes, for example, and didn't sell any records. What is your opinion of the reason you sell records?
People like the music.
They like the music.
You don't get a show when you buy the record. It doesn't explode when you put it on the record player. It just plays music. You get songs. If you like the songs, you'll buy the record.
Sooner or later, it comes down to music. Like Gene said, I mean, when you put this record on, you're going to have to listen to it. And the greatest show in the world is not going to make up for a bad record. And record sales will always indicate that. You know, a bad record will not sell as well as a good record. So that kind of answers the question before, which is more important, the music or the show. If one is more important than the other, ultimately you suffer for it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Can we take these?